don't have a physical copy because you cannot get a physical copy unless you are like the president or something. I was gonna say something interesting and eloquent, but I just got frustrated. If you're asking yourself, Margaret, did you pull over and arrest staff so you can get an update on this stupid book? Yes, I did. Hello, my lovely friends. I come to you from a literal mountain of pillows.
Hi.
Max is also here, but not on their personal mountain of pillows. But I have more pillows than anyone would ever know what to do with. This is a reading vlog. This is my vlog for BookNet Fest. And I'm here to tell you about what I'm gonna read if I do any reading. First things first, and this was definitely getting read because I need it to be read so I can go to the book club tomorrow night. So I've got the infamous Fourth Wing that I am listening to. I'm probably gonna sit here and do some crochet while I listen to it as my audiobook. I don't have a physical copy because you cannot get a physical copy unless you are like the president or something. And then I also have the Atlas Paradox if I need a physical read. We're here, this is Orlando, we're at the Drury Plaza Hotel, whatever it is. I picked Max up from the airport, and that's always, going to MCO is always an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone and their mother is chilling right now because we all just got here today. So there are no fantastic plans Thursday night. I'm gonna settle in. I want to work on, I need to edit a short that should probably go up this weekend. And I'm not sure whether I'm bringing my crochet down with me when we go to sit in panels. That's a potential thing that I may do, but I'll give you my outfit of the day. Look at my super cute Jester hoodie. That's very cute.
Jester.
And it's got, yes.
Oh, it's unicorns.
Well, it is, but it's Jester from Critical Role. It's got a little unicorn
Oh.
and ears. It was on sale, so I bought it. Anyways, that's the beginning of the vlog, and we've got 2 days of stuff that's going to be going on tomorrow.
We had a proud boy was standing first in line for public comment at our school board, and a mom for liberty came up, gave him a copy of the book. I was like, okay, I know where this is gonna go. So he read the 2 pages out of context, and our school board, lost their minds. The chair was like, I can't believe this is in our schools, how disgusting, I'm gonna remove it. And this is the 21st century. We don't just go around removing books because some idiot read 2 pages out of context from a book that you don't even know, A, was in our school system, B, what it's about. If you live in Florida and you like books, you know what's happened over the course of the past year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So our organization tracks what books are challenged in school districts in Florida who will report to us. And we hold information events, go to tabling events to spread the word, to grow our membership, give out free books to the community. Every single book that I give away has been challenged in at least one school district in this county and probably banned. So we want to get the books back out into the community because we know kids need to have these books. We also do training with our members to teach them how to approach your school boards, to fight book bans when they come into your community. A lot of people with COVID were scared to go to their school board meetings, and fair enough, because that's when I started getting involved, was with the masking issue. And it was rough back then. I mean, I was attacked verbally on several occasions. One guy screamed at me because my shoelaces were too gay because they were rainbow. Like, he literally got in my face and was like, why do you have to wear gay shoes? So I understand why people didn't want to go to their school board meetings, because it got really tense. And I think really since, particularly Moms for Liberty, they really lead the charge on most of these. I think since they've started focusing on book bans, the meetings have calmed down at least. We don't tend to, at least in Central Florida, we don't tend to see Proud Boys turn up at them every time at our school board meetings anymore. But it's very important for us to educate our members, and not only just the parents, but I rely heavily on student involvement. It's very important for the board members to hear from the students whose voices are being silenced through these book bans. I split my activist arms into like 10 different arms, many different pools at once. Particularly if you can get yourself aligned with any LGBTQ youth organizations in your communities. We have one in Orlando that I Super Youth now they are. Getting involved with other parent groups in your area. You know, we've been trying for a year now to sort of localize different regions of the state with parents getting together, and it's hard because there's so many fires going on at once. You never know. You have to run everywhere at the same time. If you can't get out there and be involved in person, email and letter campaigns are always effective, and it's the easiest way that you can get involved because you don't have to leave your house. You don't, send it off. Some school boards still allow for call or comment, although I think there's only 2 now that do that. But any, writing support is always super helpful. If you can donate to organizations, even donating books to organizations or setting up free little libraries helps. It's really all hands on deck needed because Florida is just completely on fire right now. And I don't see, we're at the point now where it is going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately. I'm hoping with the election cycle coming up in 2024, we can make a little bit of difference, but it's going to take a while. So yeah, we need everybody's help, no matter if you don't have to have kids.
All right, hi, hello. It's the end of the day on Friday. Did I take much footage today? No, I'm gonna get rid of that. Let's change that lighting up. Honestly, it'd be best if we had. I could go out there. I could go outside. Why don't I go outside? Hi. I'm too lazy to sit up properly or hold the camera, so you guys get to deal with this angle. Oh God, no. In a few minutes, I will show you my outfit. The actual outfit that I wore today. But I don't feel like getting changed at this moment. Oh, I'm not going to finish this by book club tonight, but I'm still going to go to book club because I want to hang out with people and talk about this book. And oh, we just met her dragon, and I'm losing it. I mean, I knew it was going to be this dragon. I absolutely knew it was going to be this dragon. The minute the dragon was mentioned, I was like, that's going to be her dragon. My lighting sucks. Hold on, let's just start this clip. All right, that's better. That looks like I'm not purple anymore. Like, I'm having a good time reading The Fourth Wing. Is it the best thing I've ever read? No, it is not. It is, like, there's a lot of it that is predictable and not in a good way. I enjoy things being predictable and, like, being right about shit. But, like, I'm not having to work at any of it, really, because it's all being handed to me. That said, I am really enjoying what is going to be the romance. That's just... that's some fun shit. I'm here for it. I'm always here for enemies to lovers. I love it. There's also, like, what's going on. And the dragon, her dragon is, like, I have a feeling that, like, her dragon set this whole thing up to make a point, because her society is very much about survival of the strongest, and she is not. That's kind of the point of her character, is or one of the main defining factors of her character. She has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or the fantasy equivalent of it, and so she is having to deal with the fact that she has to really think things through in ways that people that do not have this condition do not. I'm getting kind of like I'm almost getting a similar vibe to the Hero series by Maura J. Moore, where, like, society or human society has been placed on another, like, in a place where it's not supposed to be. Like, I'm getting that kind of vibe. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but I have a feeling that there's more going on that people, like, higher ups know and, like, the dragons know than what is told to the cadets and everyone who is actually a dragon rider. That makes sense to me, based on the society that's being, especially because it's like a very, like, divergent type society. So I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot more going on in the system here, and I have a feeling that like, the love interest is going to kind of be the introduction into that. It's so funny because she's sitting there, like, still completely convinced that he likes you, sweetie. Like, he doesn't want to kill you, and he's not sure what to do about that. He wants to do other things. BookNet Fest has been fun. I went to several of the panels today. Obviously, that's kind of what we're here to do. And it was, like, the keynote was really hard as a Floridian to watch. Mari was explaining how, like, they reached out to people. And don't get me wrong, like, I was telling Max this in the car on the way back from the airport, is like, I don't know that I can, like, ask people to come to Florida right now when I know that they're potentially going to be in danger depending on how things go. However, it was also really frustrating to listen to Mari talk about, like, how they reached out to a lot of people. And I know who some of these people had to have been because they are panelists that were on previous BookNet Fest panels. And I know that some of them are like, oh, I don't know that we should be doing things in Florida because blah, 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 DeSantis. If you are going, I'm not going to Florida because I am making a political statement in not going to Florida. It doesn't work the way you think it works. All that does is put Floridians, put the people who are trying to make change in a harder position than they already are in. You are making it more difficult for them to affect change when the people who want change will not come and will not support, because Florida, we are an extremely gerrymandered state. And that's, I think, very obvious considering how purple we are a lot of the time. And it's not necessarily people don't want to come, because again, I don't want people compromising their safety. I can't tell you are. So I can't in good conscience be like, I know you'll be fine. Like if it was a hurricane coming, I can tell you that. For a lot of people, it feels like your activism for what's going on in Florida stops at, I'm not going to Florida because Florida's doing blah, blah, blah. The government of Florida is doing blah, blah, blah. There are people in Florida that are fighting this shit. And if you are not looking up organizations that are actively fighting the book bannings, that are actively fighting like the Don't Say Gay bill, things like that, your activism, your decision, I'm not even gonna say activism because it's not. Your political stance means nothing. I'm sorry. Like, I'm so sick of the response to the governments in red states and vocal minorities in red states. I'm so sick of that response being, we should just leave them alone. Like, all you do when you do that is number one, reinforce the idea that the Democrats don't care about the common people, which, I mean, the Democrats, there are issues there, don't get me wrong, like, I'll shit on them all day too. They're not the biggest problem right now. I'm sorry. You're reinforcing that fact, that people, like, the elite liberals don't care. And number two, you are leaving a lot of queer people, you're leaving a lot of people of color in the lurch. People whose homes, whose communities, whose lives and livelihoods are here in Florida, or in Texas, honestly. Like, I will make a joke about Florida too, but like it does hurt to have people just act like our lives are so disposable simply because of where we were born or where we live, and the fact that we don't want to leave because if we leave, change doesn't happen. You're not helping. You're not. And it's fun to joke around and it's fun to do that, but when you sit down and you go, oh, well, I'm not doing this, and that's all you do for the place that you're abandoning, yeah, fuck that. I was gonna say something interesting and eloquent, but I just got frustrated because it is frustrating because it always goes back to that very reductive and ridiculous and unhelpful, let's just leave the red states, leave them alone and they'll destroy each other. Why don't you do something about making things better here? Because we're working on it, we're trying to vote them out.
That's like not saying like if there's a problematic book that don't be at the publisher fee or the publisher, because I will screenshot those things and show them to the people above me being like, hey, this is a conversation that is happening, you need to take that back now and you need to deal with it. So definitely use your voices because it does help. If a lot of people are talking about something, they can ignore it. So highly recommend it. Even though it does make my life a little harder, I think it's for the greater good.
I just realized I never showed you guys the full makeup look for my dress. So I'll show you the look and the hair. Yeah. Ta-da. We're very 2000s themed with all of it. So, anyways. I didn't really have any 2000s themed lipstick because I'm a millennial. But we did the best we could. And I left the shiny stuff at home. Hi. I'm a 35-year-old woman and I'm excited about a unicorn hoodie. I know. It's sad. I left These things are still in my hair because there are little rubber bands underneath them, and I am dreading having to get those out of my hair. We are here for yet another edition of Margaret Does the Laundry, Hotel Room Edition. Someone is running in our hotel at like midnight. Technically it's 11:58, but the clock says midnight. Getting my clothes back into the suitcase. So I figured I would talk to y'all while I was doing that. These are the shoes I wore. Aren't they pretty? I also wore these to Brianna's wedding. BookNet Fest is mostly over. I think I might potentially, if we run into each other, I might hang out with Rachel some more tomorrow morning. Obviously, Max is here, and I'm rooming with them. They're still downstairs, I believe. So I was just like, I'm done. The people that I know really well are leaving, and I need to pack. The thing that I really like about BookNet Fest is that there is room for that connection that I don't think you get when, you know, we're gonna wear the flip flops tomorrow morning. We're gonna be a floor, right? No, but then I would have to carry the other shoes. My train of thought is gone. It's shit. It's fine. Let's see, what panels did I go to? I went to one on Your Fave is Problematic, which is, like, one of the things I really like is that, and I think people misjudge, Madi especially, for various reasons, but, like, misjudge Madi when she is talking about reading critically, because people, when she talks about books being problematic, people assume that she just doesn't want people to talk about them at all, and, like, that's not what people are wanting when we're talking about problematic. I mean, like, there are some that I'm like, you know, maybe we could stop hyping this up. Maybe we don't need to talk about TJ Klune for the umpteenth fucking time. A lot of people, when people start talking about problematic books, people are like, oh, well, you just don't want people to read them at all, and that's never... It's very, I mean, there are books that should not be read, but that's very rarely the case. And so I just love the nuance that we get to have in the conversations that we have here, the questions that people get to ask, the fact that people get to bring, and not every space needs to be like this, because, again, one of the things that they did emphasize in the final panel of the day is that is work. Like, explaining a lot of this stuff to people is work, and people are allowed to opt out of that work. I know, it's nice to be in a space where people are talking about stuff, and, like, there's room for people who are learning, and there's also, like it's very obvious where people stand on things. So, I appreciate that. I haven't made it too much further into the fourth wing, because I've started to notice some of the stuff that, like some of the stuff that kind of tanked Rachel and Madi's enjoyment of the book is starting to become apparent to moi. Like, we're hitting those plot points that I'm like, what? Like, we haven't hit anything too terribly bad, but I'm also like, can we just move past this? Both Rachel and Martinez are like, please tell us your thoughts when you are done. I'm like, how am I supposed to do that, Rachel? You don't have a Twitter. The first thing that Rachel tells me when I get there, she's like, I hope you haven't been trying to message me because I'm locked out of Twitter again. I think the black against the green is going to be a much better contrast, so I'm going to wait. I'm going home. My mother is going to see me in this. Never mind. Let's change things out. It's like, oh, this will be cute. I can wear this. No, not if we're going home. If you're asking yourself, Margaret, did you pull over and arrest staff so you can get an update on this stupid fucking book? Yes, I did. Let's turn the AC down just a touch because, like, we can't get rid of it completely. I'm sorry if you can hear it, but I am in Florida, obviously, and parked in the sun because all of the shady spaces face where people will see me filming. So on the one, so she's just seen the love interest shirtless for the first time, and, like, just her her reaction is the reaction that we get in Mulan when Li Shang is shirtless for the first time, which is a very understandable reaction. I mean, he's a hot man. I did not finish it in time for book club. We're on the way home from BookNet Fest. This girl is mad that he put a ward on her door after someone tried to kill her. And she's like, oh my god, that's kind of controlling. No, it's not! Like, there are other things that could be happening. And I do agree that, like, the love interest is better for her than the best friend. This is like, people are saying this is a love. So far, it's not really a love triangle, because she's very much like, oh, I don't really have feelings for him anymore, and I'm like, okay, good, thank you that we're not doing this stupid shit. Granted, he should have told her. That is true. But like, she's like, oh, that's so control. I'm like, no, you were almost killed, bitch. Having a ward on your door so that no one else can get in but you and him, because it's his magic, makes sense. Here is the thing, and this is what is so ridiculous to me. They have indoor plumbing. Guys. Indoor plumbing. But they don't have ballpoint pens. Hey, Google, when was the ballpoint pen invented?
1888. On the website bbc.com, they say, an American, John J. Loud, received the first patent for a ballpoint pen back in 1888. Loud, a lawyer and occasional inventor, wanted an ink pen which would be able to write on rougher materials such as wood and leather as well as paper. To find out more,
why do you have indoor plumbing but no ballpoint pens, guys? Come on. Some of the dynamics I like. I like the dynamics between her and her friends. I like the dynamic with her and the love interest, because, like, come on, The Cruel Prince is one of my favorite books. Come on, guys, you know. And I mean, like, the Cruel Prince is leagues above this. Like, this is, like, they're not even, if we're purely going on how well written one is versus the other, The Cruel Prince is a 5, this is a 2. Leagues above. But I like the dynamic, and there's the banter, and the fact that, like, she's way too obsessed with how hot he is. That is, there is that. I'm like, this is not I'm not reading a romance. Come on, I don't need to know how hot he is every time. Like, show me how hot he is. Show me. Don't tell me your reaction. Just be like, how many abs does the human body have? That sentence alone was all we needed in this scene. 6. The human body has 6 abs. We don't need like I think there were like 3 sentences where, oh my god, he's the hottest thing ever. And then, like, so, just having, like, so much of just a few more pass-throughs, and this would have been a very good book, because like I said, like, if we cut out all the her mental, like, her thinking about it, and gone to just, how many abs does the human body have? Like, that would have communicated. So I like parts of this book. I like the relationships and the characters, and like how they're interacting with each other. I love the dragons. Like, Taryn is a grumpy old man, and I love it. I love it so much. I just do. But also, there's so much, like, on the world building level that just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't, like, it's purely there for contrivance, unless there is, and I haven't gotten to the full, like, because I know that this is a very divergent kind of situation where they're separated, and there is information that is being held back from the general populace. There just is. I did not need people in the book club to tell me that there was in order to know that there was. So there's definitely information that's being held back from the general populace. So here is my current theory, is that for whatever reason, this is actually the Hunger Games. The dragons are the capital, potentially, and we're dealing with a Hunger Games situation, because it does not make sense for them to have this murder school, as they were calling it in book club. It doesn't make sense for this murder school to exist when resources and people and all of this are so, like that's all so carefully controlled, and everything that is going on there. It doesn't make sense that there would be so much death, that there would be so much murder. The fact that the dragons just, like, randomly offing people for offending them, and we know, based on what we've gotten through her bond with her dragon, through the love interest spawned with his dragon, we're doing a dragon flight, guys. We're doing an Anne McCaffrey, and I'm just like, did we have to? I mean, I knew we were headed that way. I knew we were headed for an Anne McCaffrey. I have read that book. It's a very good book. We're heading for a dragon flight. I'm like, oh, did we have to get that involved? Please? Like, could we have had this relationship without that element? If you haven't read Dragonflight, I'm not going to spoil it for you. You're just going to have to go read the fucking book. I read it like 20 years ago, so I don't even know if it is actually good. Kind of makes me want to reread it, though, because I never did finish that series. The justification for these people's deaths, and for all of these students' deaths, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense that they would do this. I do think she's trying to have some commentary on the military and how the military lies to people and how the military views people as expendable, and I see it. I think it could have been something, and it's so, like, so much is so inconsistent in how things are presented. You're not giving me good enough reasons for the stakes that we have is my biggest issue. That and the fact that we're using quill pens and we have indoor plumbing, but then we have people who can do magic, and like, you're telling me we have access to magic and indoor plumbing and all of these other things that are going on. Why don't they have saddles on the fucking dragon? Why would you bond with someone, a bond that will hurt you if they die, and not be like, you know, it might be a smart idea just to like have something besides me for them to fucking hold on to? I don't understand why you would need magic to have a pen. When was the first fountain pen invented?
The first practical fountain pen was invented in 1884 by Lewis Waterman.
There's so much we don't know, that we obviously don't know, that we're obviously being lied to about, and is being kept secret. And I'm just like, bitch, come on. Like, having come from kind of background where I can relate to what's going on here, I can understand how she is so indoctrinated in everything, especially considering that her mother was a top military official, which, I mean, if you know anything about military, a lot of the time their kids are the ones that are the worst. Like, it's so hard. Like, they don't follow orders. That's besides the point. The other thing, and Mari mentioned this in the book club, because like I said, I like how she's having to think through certain things, and having to consider certain things, and like, okay, how do I navigate this? How do I navigate? Because my entire life has been, okay, we're going to go do this. I have to like consider, is this something that's going to affect my skin? Is this something that I have to worry about my allergies? Is this like, when we go out to, like, I can't just pick a restaurant to go out to eat. I have to pull up the menu and stuff like that. One thing that Mari did point out is that we don't see what happens when she has no spoons, and when she's not able. And it hasn't been established. Like, I would like to see that explored more, that rather than that being like, what does she do? Like, how does she cope on the days that she has pushed herself too hard, and so she's getting some blowback from that, or on the days that she wakes up and things are just going wrong? Because this is not a situation where it seems like that's something that you can do. There is a part of that could be because the author also has EDS, which is what the main character. So there is a part I can understand that there being some fantasy there of like being able to just push through with willpower and that kind of thing. And she definitely has made accommodations for herself, and there are things that she's coping mechanisms that she has, but I would like to see what happens here, and I don't think we do, what happens when she can't, when that's not enough, because in everyday society that is typically not enough. I think the critique that there is some internalized ableism there is definitely a good critique of this particular book. But I have been here for 14 minutes talking to y'all, sitting in the rest stop, and I would like to go home. So I'm gonna keep heading home and continue. So stupid. This whole scene, I love it. Like, I'm having a good time. I'm not entirely sure is it a good book? I disagree with people who are like, nothing happened in this book, because some people, I do think things are happening in this book. Like, there are just so many things where I'm like, if we'd gotten like 1 or 2 more edits to really nail down some of these details, we could have had something here, and we didn't. So we have like 30 seconds before this car is ridiculously hot and I can't, but I wanted to give you guys an update before I went inside and forgot what the heck I was thinking. So we have yet again brought up Xaden's controlling nature. And yet again, it's like the worst example, because like the example that Dane has brought up is that Xaden gave her a bodyguard after 6 people tried to kill her. Again, that is a bad example of someone being controlling. Number 1, as her superior officer, it is his job to make sure that she is protected. Number 1, it is his job to make sure that if she is in a dangerous situation, she has the protection she needs in order to not die. So like, when someone is actively under threat, or when someone has a bunch of people that want to kill them, and you know this and you believe them because he does, beautiful, I love that, you're going to set up extra security precautions. You're going to assign them someone to be a bodyguard. Like, this is normal and not at all, like, it's not how, I don't understand why this is what's being brought up as the example of what is controlling nature and all of that. Like, he is dumb, he's moody, he's brooding, he, like, doesn't like to explain shit, he's a grumpy little bad bitch. There are so many other things that I could point out and be like, yeah, but this is actually the thing that he maybe needs to work on, and we're not bringing that up, probably because most of it we're supposed to find sexy. And, like, I very much get this kind of fantasy that's going on in this book, because this is very much, I just found out that this author is Mormon, and it makes so much more sense, because, like, as someone raised, you kind of fundy as well, there is this kind of fantasy that we have raised in the kind of environment that we would have been raised in, of having someone, some big strong man, come and solve our problems. I would also like a big strong man to come and solve my problems. I would be totally cool with that if he was a big strong man and hot and I was into him. That, I think that is part of the fantasy that is being fulfilled in this book, is that the author very much probably also has some of these feelings of, like, I wish someone would just come and, like, I wish I didn't have to fight this anymore. I wish I didn't have to deal with people not believing me anymore, because we just had this whole conversation about how she's like, this person believed me. And I wasn't expecting them to, and I didn't realize how important that was until they did. And so, like, we have all of that, and especially raised the way that her mom is, her mom being her mom. So anyways, that's just like, and that's just an authoritarian parent. Like, there's nothing special going on there. She's just an authoritarian parent. You do what I tell you to do, blah, blah, blah. That was the update. I'm going to go inside, get my stuff inside, sign my card for my dad, and give it to him and all of that good stuff. But anyways, I wanted to update you guys before. This is going to be such a long vlog, and most of it's just going to be me talking about this book, because I really didn't take a lot of footage at BookNet Fest, but it was fun! Hi, hello, welcome everyone. You will notice we're back in my room. We will get into my final thoughts on, this is going to be such a complicated review, but we'll get into my final thoughts on Fourth Wing. But first, I wanted to talk about some of the books that I brought in. I have very little knowledge of what these are beyond cover and, like, title. I just know that they looked interesting, and they were free. We got to the end of the day and Mari was like, take them, they are not coming home with me, they go with you. So we did. One of the ones that I got that I'm probably the most excited about is going to be Bravest Fair by Francesca Zappia. This one kind of seems like a take on the Grimm's fairy tales and that kind of thing. Our main character is a tailor, and she's setting off to do some questy type things. There is a sickness. It did come with, like, some stuff on the inside. See? Oop, do you want to focus? Yep, there we go. That art right there. I think I'm going to end up having a fun time with this book. It sounds right up my alley. I had to take this one home because it says Purple Girl is the title, by Chloe Lucas. It looks like it's some sort of, like, coming-of-age novel about a character going into Harvard on scholarship. This feels like a thriller cover. Is this not, am I not correct that this feels kind of like a procedural or a thriller cover, but it's just basically an adult contemporary is what it sounds like. We also got Charlotte Isles is not a good detective by Kate Siegel. Obviously this is like a detective mystery. Hopefully it's the first book, not part of a series, and it is coming out at the end of, or in July of 2023. I got Silent Sounds by Annette LJ. This is about a 17-year-old and she is looking for her parents. It is a big, thick, chunky book. I believe that this one is a self-pub, an indie pub. She also signed it for me. But yeah, this cover is just, like, it is stunning. The Salamander Stone by Nikki Henderson. This looks like some sort of weird horror type thing, probably YA. Oh, this is a world where insurance companies have to provide insurance for supernatural monster attacks. That sounds like such a weird, offbeat, like, interesting thing. The Casquette Girls by Alice Arden. This looks like it has something to do with fashion, but also I'm kind of getting ghosty vibes from the way that her head is tilted. This sounds like it's kind of like a paranormal set in post-Katrina New Orleans. I also found, got Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. This is one of her historical fiction novels. Do I know what it is? I don't know, but I've always wanted to read a Kristen Hanna book, and my historical fiction shelf has room on it. And this one doesn't tell you much about it. Life isn't a fairy tale, and the back just says life is many things, but it is not the happily ever after she was led to believe. This is just different collections of poetry based around like fairy tales, because like you've got Pinocchio, you've got The Huntsman. I also got some books from 2 different indie authors. We got I'm in Love with the Mothman by Paige Lavoie, or Lavoie. I'm not sure how I'm sorry, Paige, I don't know how you pronounce your last name. Paige was talking about this. She said it was super cozy and cute, and when she was talking about this on the panel, like there was some stuff that I was like, I think maybe I'll get this book. Oh, look at that. It's got like little page details on it, and it's got a little sticker. Look at the sticker. Look at the sticker, guys. That's so cute. And then the other one that I got is Artura's Quest by Tag Vermette. This is, from what I understand, a very queer King Arthur retelling, except it's Queen Arthur in this case. Well, Queen Artura, I'm guessing. This one should be fun to read because I am super into Arthur, and if I don't end up enjoying it, I have a couple of people that I think might enjoy this book. Anyways, so Fourth Wing. This is gonna be, so this book, I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it. I think we're probably going to round it up to about a 3-star. There are issues. There are so many issues in this book with this plot. And like not all of them are deal breaker issues, but I am going to link Mari from My Name is Mari Nez's video down below. She has some stuff to say about kind of the depiction of the male love interest and the fact that he is a confirmed man of color. I was talking with Rachel and like I was like, this sounds like this feels like she just decided that Theo James from Divergent was a man of color. Seems like the kind of author that would look at Theo James and be like, that's not a white man, when it is. So there are issues with some of the racial representation in this book and how the dynamics work. There just are levels of nuance that you have to hit when you are going to have a super violent character that is also a person of color, especially a man of color, just because there are stereotypes and different biases that go with that. I'm not the person to talk on that. I'm going to link that down below. If Rachel has linked her or finished her video, I will also link Rachel's video down below, because part of kind of the author's thing is that this is a military and she's a military wife, and Rachel got really frustrated with a lot of the military aspects of that, and I don't, like, she's going to do a whole thing on that. So if you want to see that, you may have already seen it. What I am going to talk about, I guess I'll talk about some of the things that I liked first. I do kind of disagree with some of the things that were said in book club when it comes to some of the dialogue and how certain things were handled, because I feel like it wasn't the best written thing I've ever read, but it was not as, like, some of the, especially like between her and her sister, it was not as clunky and what's the word, like clunky and robotic as I feel that like it felt to them. And that is definitely a thing that, like, personal taste differ. There were a couple of things that, like, I understand that, like, when you are having issues with the book, these things stand out more. They didn't really stand out or bother me. Okay, so this is complicated because I did enjoy a lot of the aspects of this book. I did enjoy, like, the relationship and the things with the dragons. Like, the relationship between her and her dragon and the relationship between her and the love interest, I liked. The relationship between some of her and some of her friends, I liked. I didn't feel that the characters were terribly, I felt like I don't know them really well. They're not characters I'm super invested with, but I felt like they had enough characterization to carry the story forward. I know that is some of the stuff that people talk about. I will say, like, that first sex scene. This woman was doing so much work to convince this man she was okay with having sex. Like, at some point in this, like, the third or fourth time that you're having to say, no, it's okay. Like, I feel like you need to take a step back and go, okay, maybe we need to stop what we're doing and have a conversation, because we're having a whole back and forth improv sketch scene going on here. I needed less talking. There was just too much talking. And, like, I've seen authors, Talia Hibbert, that do dialogue and sex really, really well. I get what she was going for. I get that she was going for, like, this idea of enthusiastic consent, of really confirming that the main character wants this. It was too much. It was too, like, it made me uncomfortable, because I started getting the feeling, like, this is what it started to feel, or the way that it's written, the way that it's put out, it started to feel like she was actually having to coerce him or convince him to have sex with her. And, like, as soon as you start feeling that, I feel like that's the time to take a step back, check in with your partner. Okay, hold on. I just read this book that handles that so, it handles it so freaking well. Like, you want a book that really handles consent and talking about consent and Tainted Devils. Read it, read it, read it. That's the book. That is the book to read. That was so cringe. And they're just, like, it's, like, this book was a continuum of, oh, I'm enjoying that, this is cool. And then she would say something, or that something would happen in the narrative, somebody would say something in dialogue, and I'd be like, this is the worst thing I've ever read. One thing I will say, did I come on earlier and say, I mean, it's really hot when you have a man say to fenceless women, aren't my type. I was really hot. It was very hot. I was into it. What I really wanted to talk about, because I think a lot of people are going to like this. I think if you like Sarah J. Maas's kind of writing style, I think that this is a good book for you. I think if you enjoy, like, if you're into dragons and kind of the fairy tale dystopian-esque stuff, and you don't need a lot of really deep world building, I think you've got that there. That was the thing, that she should have figured things out sooner. But I didn't, like, I don't know, some of the conversation kind of made it sound like she had everything handed to her, and, like, the fact that she hadn't made certain connections made sense. Now, did we need some of that stuff at the end to be dragged? Like, it needed to be pulled through. And the consistent critique that I have of this book is this doesn't feel like a finished draft. So this is like Divergent meets The Hunger Games meets Game of Thrones meets How to Train Your Dragon, except the dragon is training the person. My favorite part about this entire book, and this tells you something when it's not the romance, my favorite part about this entire book is at the very end. And there's a live show that you can go back, the live show I did while I was finishing this book. You can see me in the background of this video as we're doing sprints. You can see me, if I can find that exact point, you can see me figure out what is going to happen, and then you also get my reaction when it finally does happen. And, like, that is one of my favorite. There are several of my favorite tropes in here, so I am giving a lot of grace because there is a lot here that I enjoyed. That said, there's also a lot to criticize about it. And one of the things that I realized, and I wish I had had a physical copy, I wish I could tell you exactly where I realized it. Everything about this story, the military fantasy, the dragons, all of that, almost everything about that story is built to serve a central kind of fantasy. You cannot detach the fantasy, which is a fantasy that exists because there are real needs. You cannot detach that fantasy from white fundy womanhood. And if you don't know, the author is Mormon, which I didn't know until Sunday morning. Rachel apparently found that out. A lot of what I was raised on, despite my mother doing a very good job of preparing me to also be able to function single, because, listen, 4-year-old Margaret was not going to college because she was going to get married and have babies. Glad she didn't when she was planning on it, but, like, she's going to have so many babies too. Good God. That child wanted 10 children. Pray for 4-year-old Margaret. So the core fantasy there is that we have this character who has been having to work twice as hard as everyone else in order to just function on a normal level. At least twice as hard, sometimes more. Like, we continually, especially at the beginning, watch her having to put in so much effort to carry such a burden just to keep up with everyone else, because the program that she is, they're not going to slow down for her. She has to figure out how to get herself up to the level of her other classmates rather than having accommodations made for her, which is not the way that things should be, but that's how things happen sometimes. And then we have in this story, she finds someone who is willing to take on and fight for her, take on some of that burden and fight for her, and starts, like, this person makes her feel seen. That is how marriage is sold in a lot of very actually, no, not even, like, even in some progressive Christian circles, that is how marriage, that is how relationship and physical intimacy and all of that, that's how that's sold. And it is sold in a way that it also links it to Christ, and the fact that, like, it's a parallel with Christ, meant to be, or people, they sell it as a parallel with Christ, because you have your husband who is supposed to fight for you and know you better than anyone else does. You also have Christ who is fighting for you on a spiritual level and knows you better than anyone else does. That is the core fantasy here. That is what the author has been sold. Potentially, I don't know when she became Mormon, potentially from a very young age. We also, in the way that this love interest comes into her life, he's also a very, like, savior-like or Christ-like figure, not necessarily in the, like, sacrificial way, but in the way that he has has her best interests in mind and knows more than she does, has a bigger idea of the bigger picture. That is also a very central Christian idea. All of the rest of it is meant to be a vehicle for this relationship and this kind of the fulfillment of this fantasy. I know nothing about this author's like marriage, what's going on. I just know like where her background potentially is. As soon as I saw that, like it was just like I can't unsee that. The way that he is set up is he is set up to be, for all of the talk of the independent woman and all of that, he is set up to be a savior-like or Christ-like figure in her life. So here's the frustrating part about not just like I don't blame the author for putting forth this narrative, because it is a narrative that she has been raised in, and it is a narrative that has been created to keep people. The angle changed slightly. It's because I filled that fucking memory card up. We cut off when I was talking about the fact that like this core fantasy that we're seeing fulfilled. It's like, here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with this fantasy. It's not the fantasy itself that is the problem, because especially when you're looking at it through the lens of the fact that this main character is disabled, the author is disabled. Our medical system and our society as a whole makes disabled people, makes neurodivergent people, makes anyone who is not the straight, white, able-bodied norm, makes them fight so hard. But especially disabled people have to fight so hard to be seen, to be diagnosed, to be heard. They end up dismissed so often. And so I know from testimony from others that when you find that doctor, when you find that person that really listens to you, you hold on to that. And so we're looking at this very genuine need that people have, that the author herself has, and she's being sold a stopgap measure that doesn't even work by her religion. It's frustrating because you cannot separate the fact that the author is disabled and the way that our society treats disabled people from the fact that she is also a white Christian fundamentalist. And these two are coming together, and it is primarily in the framing and the way that the story with the love interest is structured, and the way that he comes in and he starts meeting those needs that clue me into to her background. I think even not knowing that she was Mormon, I would have felt that in that scene, because I just remember being like, oh, I know exactly where this is coming from. I know exactly what's going on here. You have that as the central fantasy, and then on top of that you have kind of the Hunger Games thing and the military fantasy and the dragons, and all of that is building this world so she can have this central kind of have her character go through this central kind of wish fulfillment experience, which, you know what, writing is wish fulfillment. I can tell you that as an author. Sometimes you don't know how much you're talking about your own life when you write the draft of the book, but it is almost always about yourself and your life in some way, shape, or form. Not saying that out of experience. No, not at all. That is something that I'm not hearing talked about in and among some of the issues that are there with this book. And it, like I said, it's not like... We saw a really good panel about the hero's journey versus the heroine's journey, or the masculine journey versus the feminine journey. And just like... Maybe it's because that was on my mind, but just looking at it, our main character is powerful, and she's able to stand on her own, and she's able to do things on her own, but you also, like, it just felt very white Christian girl bossified when I'm sitting there reading it. And that's not to say I didn't enjoy it. That's not to say I will not probably be picking up the second book. I don't know. I don't. Like, after that, that's one of my favorite tropes. That moment, I need more of that moment. But also, I did suffer in some parts of this book. Realistically, probably about a 2.5 stars, but I'll round it up to, I don't know, maybe round it up to 3. Like, just based on my experience with it, I don't feel like I can give it a 2-star, but I also don't feel like it deserves a 3-star. I would not read it again. Unless you paid me. You could pay me to read it again. BookNet Fest, 5 stars. as always, 10 stars out of 5 stars, as always. This book, 2.5 to maybe 3 stars. And like a week, 3 stars. Like, this is such a conflicted, because like there's so many things that I'm like, oh, I have genuine issues with this, but also there are parts that I genuinely enjoyed. You probably don't need to read it, honestly. Oh, it was really funny watching grown women also on the internet throw fits because they couldn't get the Fairy Loot Special Edition. That was my experience at BookNet Fest. It was fun. My favorite moment was there was a moment where there was like some real loud thunder, and like all of the people from the north were like, oh, what was that? And the Floridians were like, oh, it's just thunder, don't worry about it. You don't understand just the kind of general, like, we treat the weather in Florida like the weather is the weird uncle that you don't always get along with, but is also sometimes pretty cool. Like, the weather in Florida doesn't scare Floridians, but we also recognize it can beat us up, so we are going to respect it. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!